This is Tanya from Mortal Kombat. And this is the brand new enhanced Tanya, also from Mortal Kombat. Now, if you go on Twitter and you have the audacity to even remotely suggest that you do not like the new design, well, then you are going to hear the mortal people go, racism, racism, oh, how do you not like it? Oh, you're a racist. Oh, you do not understand that this comes from Netherrealm. The church, the corporation, they have reached peak ESG scores. If you do not like it, you're a racist. Right, I'll tell you why I don't like it. If you think that I'm burning a cross in my free time, you're wrong. But honestly, I genuinely do not concern myself with the opinion of people on Twitter. Honestly, would you invite a person from Twitter at the dinner table with your mother? Or would you be ashamed? Like, if you'd be ashamed to invite them at the dinner table with your mother there, why would you care about their opinions? Like, if I had a friend from Twitter, I would literally be ashamed to have them in public. At least here in Eastern Europe, right? Like, maybe society is different where you're from. But here, if I had any type of person from Twitter that is considered moral, I would cover my face. I would wear the COVID mask. Again, in streets, in public. It's like, I do not know this person. Please, do not judge me because of association. So because of that, I generally do not care what their opinion of me is, the same way that they probably don't care what my opinion of them is. But I will tell you very easily why this character design is bad. Alright? It's not the skin color, you dumbass. Especially when in the case of Tanya, she was always black. And people liked her back then. So you need to justify for yourself why is it that people like Tanya in Mortal Kombat 9, but they don't like her in this iteration. Like, what changed? What is it? What is it? Can we look at the picture like an adult and just be honest with yourself? You know, because from what I understand, a person from Twitter always lies. They always lie. And when they shut up, they lie to themselves. So, like, please, stop lying to yourself. It's not because of racism. It's not. There must be another reason. Can we figure out why? Let me hold your hand. I know that you're suffering. I know that you're in pain. You're suffering from progressive ideology. But let me bring you to the light and explain to you why the character on the left makes sense and the character from the right is a bad design. The character from the left is a femme fatale. Okay? Like, she looks absolutely stunning and gorgeous. If you were to walk right now into a bar and saw that character sitting there, you would not make eye contact because you're a progressive individual. You are filled with soy. You do not have the strength required to look at a woman into the eyes and ask her out. So we both know this, right? This is what peak feminine energy looks like. You may call it, what did your university professor teach you? Hyper-sexualization, unrealistic beauty. Here in the real world, alright, like outside of the Californian bubble, we call it feminine energy. Like, this is peak feminine energy. And if you do not have what it takes, if you don't have the confidence in you, women can feel that. Because you're not even going to look her in the eye. Right? So, the one on the left is the femme fatale. Because not only is she absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, but she's going to kill you. I mean, she's got deathly instruments. She's a master in combat. And because of that, it creates this interesting archetype. Like, despite the fact that your brain tells you it's beautiful and approach, logic and wisdom would dictate to stay the fuck away. Okay? So this is like one aspect of her character. She is incredibly gorgeous, but also incredibly dangerous. The second aspect of her character, you can notice in the glowing eyes. Like, she is not from the planet Earth. She's not from Earth realm. You can tell this because her eyes are white and glowing, right? She is from a different plane. She's from Edenia. And this is how they actually managed to separate the characters that are coming from Earth, which are plain looking, and the characters that are coming from a different realm, which is Edenia. If you show me that this is how the characters from Edenia look like, Edenia stops being this magical, mythical place, which is interesting and fascinating, right? It becomes like Earth. It becomes boring and bland. So if you have a story that is fantasy and is taking place outside of Earth, whether it's sci-fi, whether you have different dimensions, it would be good to create certain signifiers for the people living in the other dimensions so that you create an era of mystique, intrigue, something that would get the reader or the viewer to want to explore, right? Like if I see that, okay, well, Edenia looks like this, then I do not feel any connection to Edenia. I do not care that much about Edenia because it looks like planet Earth. Like, okay, they have people that look exactly like the girl next door. Like, who cares? That's not interesting, right? If you show me that this is Edenia, then I'll be like, oh, wow, like that's an interesting place. Let me read more about its lore. Let me read more about its people. But for some reason, you know, they go with the bland genetic shit. Like, again, this on the left is the identity of Mortal Kombat. Like, if I see women that look like this, I immediately think Mortal Kombat. Because they created a brand. They created an identity. If I see this, can be anything. Literally anything. I don't think Mortal Kombat when I see the girl on the right. It can be Assassin's Creed. It can be Black Panther. It can be literally anything. Like I have seen this in many other fiction before. In many other IPs. I have not seen this. Right? Like if I see the one on the left, maybe I could think Star Wars, but no, it doesn't have the lightsaber, right? So like this creates identity. This creates originality. It creates the customer to identify with the brand. This does not. This is like literally anything that comes out from Modern California. I don't, by the way, this is not even about the women. Like in the last Mortal Kombat, they are going with a much more realistic take, right? Like all the characters, even the men, they look plain. I disagree with this art choice as well. Like, it's a bad art choice that you're going with. Mortal Kombat used to be about fantasy, fiction, Orientalism. Orientalism is great, by the way. Like, there are people from Middle East which love the interpretation that Americans used to have about the 1001 Nights Tales, about Aladdin. Like, there's people in Middle East that love the Aladdin movie, right? I know that your university professor is training you in order to hate Orientalism, to think that, oh, it must be bad. But in reality, it's quite wholesome. Like, if you go, like, as an American, if you look at what Japanese people are doing when they're cosplaying themselves as cowboys and they're trying to mimic certain aspects of American culture, they don't do a good job. But it's wholesome in what they are doing. You know, the same way that Americans are trying to imitate anime culture and they're like, using a couple of Japanese words and they're doing all these cosplays and stuff. Japanese people are doing the same for Americans. Like they have like this entire culture which revolves around like trying to pretend to be a cowboy in the Wild West and stuff. That is wholesome, right? Like I as a Romanian, if I'm looking at what when I'm looking at what the Japanese did with the Resident Evil 9 and it took place in a Romanian village, but they didn't do an accurate job of it. You know, it's like, I guess like the people who made Resident Evil 9 never went to Romania and were like, well, let's think about how an Eastern European village would look like. And they did that. It doesn't offend me. It's like, okay, well, this is their understanding of Romanian culture. This is their view on it. Obviously, they haven't been here. And honestly, I wouldn't even want an accurate representation. Why? Because, well, it's a video game. So it's the same thing here with Orientalism. Like Prince of Persia, especially 1, 2, and 3, was heavily inspired by Orientalism. Aladdin, heavily inspired by Orientalism. Like, as long as you're not using, like, stereotype characters and you're not trying to actually depict it in a negative light, and you're just trying to add the fantasy elements to it, and you're just trying to create an immersive tale, then yeah, Orientalism is actually good, despite what your educated professor might say. Unless they're using a different definition of it than I am. And I don't know, like, my definition of it is that you're reading the 1001 Nights Tales and you're trying to implement that fantasy the same way, I guess, like someone tries to implement Dungeons and Dragons when creating their own lore. But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.